And same with, it doesn't matter if you're the most respected, highly influenced Christian in the world and you get out of the will of God, God's work's not going to grind to a stop, and God's not going to fret and say, oh my, what am I going to do without him, without her in the ministry? I don't want to. Or if we decide. So anyway, think about it. As a 17-year-old, this was the dream. This is God, especially in our day. And I would think it'd be somewhat similar, but maybe a little more reserved in think, oh man, next week, over dad and over the family, I can't even fathom that. Why? Because we're an instant society, and whether or not we subscribe to all that instant, we are influenced by it. And so maybe we'd give it 2 weeks. They throw him in a pit. Whose idea was that? They throw him in a pit. Whose idea was that? Well, you're one step ahead of yourself. It was all the brothers collectively, let's throw them in the pit. Reuben's was not to put him to death. Then what brother got another idea? Yeah, Judah said, hey, why are we letting him just die and we don't get anything out of this? And to collectively as brothers want to sell your brother for $98, you got to have a high level of hatred to do that. So we've got the plot, then we got the plan of Judah. Somehow God didn't tell us who was absent in the selling of Joseph. Reuben, I don't know what he was up to, but at any rate, he comes back, looks in the pit, Joseph's gone. He assumed that his brothers had killed him, and so he kind of panics, because keeping in mind, though he had failed miserably in this position, what position did he have among the brothers, or what was his status? He's what? Yeah, he was the first son. He was the oldest. Though he had been X'd himself out as far as privileges of the oldest, and it passed down to Joseph. Why Joseph? Why did he become, after Reuben got himself X'd out by his actions, why did it jump down to Joseph? Firstborn of Rachel, who was his wife. Yeah, the two concubines, though they had 2 children apiece, they were not counted. And so, at any rate, we're down to, in chapter 39, verse number 2, we'll see this phrase a number of times. Verse number 2, the Lord was with Joseph. He was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. Jump down to verse number 21. But the Lord was with Joseph, showed him mercy, gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. From the very start, we saw, and it's repeated throughout the life of Joseph, that the Lord is with him. When God's with you, there isn't any obstacle that God can't take care of. When Joseph's brothers, after they sold him, they had to come up with a plan to tell their father. We see Jacob's despair, their brother's scheme. They've got to deceive dad. We also see not only their scheme, but we find their shamelessness. They're lying about their own brother and what became of him to their father. They knew this is the favored son. This is the one that, remember, Joseph, how things are going. So they took the coat and they throw some goat blood on it. They didn't have the means that we have today to determine the kinds of blood or anything. So his dad had to buy the Bible tells us Jacob refused to be comforted. It's kind of the brother's shame of trying to comfort their father for the lie that they told him. You go, how do you do that? You told the lie. You saw your father's devastation, and then you try to cover the lie that you told. So the brothers really, the rest of the Bible shows us up until Joseph is revealed to the family again. Jacob lived with grief. What did the brothers live with? Guilt. And so we see that Potiphar, he's the chief captain. So as chief captain, typically chief captain would have the responsibility of protecting Pharaoh. So there'd be a closeness with Pharaoh that Potiphar had because he had to guard him. It's just like the particular Secret Service men and women that are assigned specifically to the president. If I'm remembering correctly, they stay with that president his whole term. If he's in for 2 terms, they are there. Why? Because there's an intimacy, closeness that they see things, hear things that nobody else is privileged to hear or see, but they're there. That's their job. And so it's typically there's a lot of benefit to it. Because of the closeness, you get to know the president like nobody else other than his wife. And in some cases, there's things that you know that the wife doesn't, just out of national security. So it's a unique position, and it's similar around the world. World leaders, they have an inner circle of those that protect them. And you also, if a dignitary comes to see the Pharaoh, some of them are going to be right there. And so it's kind of I think, for the Lord, I like to think it's, he likes irony. Here Joseph, bottom rung slave, the $100 and $98 that he was sold, that was considered a handicapped slave. That was the cheapest that you could get a slave, 20 pieces of silver, and yet the tables turned by God, and ultimately Joseph is over Potiphar.